Well, welcome, my friends, to the third unit of this course. It is investments. We're going to look at now investing our money since we're now budgeting well. We have a plan to reduce our debts in life. Let's see what we can do to actually gain some income through investing. Now, this is an overview right here. As we look at investing, we can always take a page from very wealthy people. What do they do well? Well, here's something I came across a few years ago. 5 surprisingly simple habits of rich people. First off, they set goals and act upon them. I think you will find in life you only improve upon what you measure. And when you set a goal and you measure it, you know if you've accomplished that. Accomplishment comes down to setting those goals, working hard to achieving them. The billionaire Andrew Carnegie was a steel magnate, philanthropist, everything. Said, if you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hope. So, my friends, they set goals. They read a lot. Readers are leaders. That was an old saying. And there's good reason for it. People who spend their time reading books and learning much more about those who spend their time on Instagram or the political BS that is always just right in our face. Maybe that TV, I know we love to stream Netflix, HBO, Hulu, Prime, and there's so many more. Why don't we start reading Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world? At one point, he was the richest man alive, richest person. He gave a lot of that away. He spends 80% of his time reading every day. He said, you know what? I do more reading and thinking, and I make fewer impulse decisions than most people in business. I just like that kind of life. I want to be well informed. So think about that. As you read more, you definitely know more, and you'll also write better as well. 3, they get up early. Oh man, we're in a life that's got us going so crazy sometimes, my friends. But do you ever have any time just for yourself? You need to. You need to be a little bit selfish in that area. Getting up before the day has begun is great. You're less likely to encounter distractions or other people vying for your time, especially for those of us who are married with spouses and children. You have to have some time of yourself. Getting up early, exercising, getting the blood pumping, reading. You read 10 pages a day in the morning. By the end of the year, you'll have probably read 5 novels. So that's how we read better. Have that time for yourself to do your own thinking of what you want to do. I like this one very much. They say no. How many of us don't say no? Oh, I'll do that. I'll do this. Friends, say no. Wealthy people understand their time is very valuable and they know how to achieve their goals. They have their goals and they have to say no. I am not prepared to do that. Figure out ways to say no to people, my friend, especially at work. Successful people understand they have very limited time. All right, so those hours are spent best when they're focused on their tasks. It's okay. It's okay to say that. I like this. They make contact with others. It's called building your social capital. I would like for you to research that word, social capital. You'll find people in life, they don't have to be extremely rich, but they get things done because other people help them. They're not manipulative as much as they just make really good connections. Hey, can you help me out with that? Do you know of somebody? Where should I take my car? Because I don't trust any mechanics around here. Where do you have your money? What can we do? Very goal-oriented. This is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. The richest people in the world look to build networks. Everyone else just looks to do work. Think about building your social capital. So as we look in starting investing, just remember a few things. We want our financial base. We want it to come together. So do we have that cash flow plan established? At least in the right direction. We definitely need our emergency fund established, my friends. So if we're in the college years, we need a few $1,000s. If you are already in your prime and you're working, we need 3 to 6 months of living expenses. If something bad happened and I couldn't work, do I have at least 6 months of expenses? Not desires, but expenses. And are we managing our debts? Are our debts down to a very minimum using that debt snowball? We have these things in order. Things are good. But first things first, that emergency fund. I think it is the foundation of our financial plan. There it is. It's the insurance against it too. At least $3,000, okay, is a starting point. That should be our college years. And of course, for some of us who are working with family and incomes, somewhere between $7, $10, and $20,000 is in an emergency. Well, I need to go to investing because I've got a great investment. Why can't I just start out there? Well, let's see about that. It's happened to a lot of people. All right, when you start investing, you don't have that emergency fund, and then life-changing events happen. What do? We'll cash out those investments to cover our emergencies. Friends, we are in a post-COVID world, and I'm not saying COVID is over, but we're certainly out of the shutdowns, and we hope that will never happen again. When we did shut down in 2020, March to basically August for some people, many people lost their jobs. They did not have an emergency fund just to get through it, and so they cashed out their IRAs, individual retirement accounts, and their 401k retirements from their work. When you do that, you pay a very big penalty. Hey, I'm not saying good, bad, indifferent. You got to do what you got to do. You got to put food on the table. But we don't want to have to do that. I'm just wondering, and we know how much money was lost for retirement just to live. This emergency fund, my friends, can't say it enough. It is the insurance against your financial plan. So here's some investment terms that we're going to look at. We're going to look at stock. We're going to look at real estate bonds, mutual funds, ETF. What is asset allocations? We're going to go over the fundamentals, and this is just the start of this unit for this video right here. Socrates, the key to wisdom. Admitting one's ignorance is the first step in acquiring knowledge. Understand what you do not already know. That is the key to wisdom right there. So we're going to have to get out of comfort zones, get onto different websites, start really looking in. The one thing great about the textbook in this class, and I know it's an ebook, but you're always able to go and purchase that textbook from the site. They'll send you, I think, for $20 or $30 or $40, they'll send you a paper copy of that. And I just think it's a great book. That's why I've always chosen this book for this course. Different ways we can understand the investment world. We want to kiss it, all right? Keep it simple. When we start thinking of investments, we really want to look at least 5 years. Like I'm not going to use this money for 5 years. And of course, we need to somewhere look around. What we want to get is at least 9% on return on average. Maybe 1 year it doesn't do that, but when we average it through. Obviously, inflation and taxes tend to eat that up. If I'm trying just to get a car and I'm saving up for that, which I hope we aren't, versus just taking out car payments, or a down payment on a house, that's hoarding money. We're saving as hard as we can. And so we really don't want that as an investment. We need to think long term. So of course, long term, our retirement plans, IRAs, and just different investment accounts that you're going to use later in life. So we talked about goals. That's what very wealthy people do. So let's have some investment goals. Again, please ask ourselves, well, how much money can I give up right now for investments, considering my financial plan is at this point? How much risk am I willing to assume? There is the key axiom in finance is risk and reward. The risk you take should equal the reward you're going to get. What conditions might alter those investment goals? Again, layoffs, different areas. Hey, promotions, I can put more money in. And are you willing to make the sacrifices? Remember, my friends, this course we've talked about, we are saving money for the future so you can spend this in different times of your life. That's a good thing. All right, starting the investment program. We want to kiss it, want to keep it simple. We also want to look what is free. In the business world, if you're going to start your own business as well, what are free assets that I already can take advantage of? What are some free things? Well, if you're employed right now, and many part-time employees can also get into a retirement account. Let's see if you have a 401k or a 403b. The 401k, which we're going to talk about much more in depthly when we look at completing our financial plan, is a retirement account for-profit business. It's just a characterization from the Internal Revenue Service. So that's 401ks for profit. Many of you may go into nonprofit organizations. That's a 403b. If you go and work for a government, you may have a 457 plan. All they are boxes, my friends. They're just boxes where you get to put money into. So right now, if you're working and you have a 401k, hopefully your company matches your investment. This video was created in the early part of 2023, okay? So we know we're in a recessionary time going there. And other times, the information here is good for lifetime. Hopefully your employer is doing that. Some employers are going to cut back, unfortunately, I believe. But if yours does, max that out. Best investment advice I can give anyone, certainly for those of us in the young ages. If you're in your 20s and 30s, you gotta max this out, my friends, because whatever you get in, your company may match a portion of that. So if they match 50% up to $10,000, which means you put in 10 grand, they'll put in 5,000. That is $5,000 worth of free money, and it will try to put that into an investment account. The 401k is not an investment. It is a box that you put money in. Think of it that way. How you invest that 401k, which we talked about in our retirement in completing our financial plan, is the investment itself. So knock that out. What else do we have? Participate in elective savings program. Sometimes your company says, hey, we also have, now your 401k is through your company. An IRA is what you do on your own. And you may have automatic payroll deductions for your IRAs, which we'll talk more about. But if you have that, you could put $20 in a week, or $40 or $50 or $100 or $1,000, whatever amount you can put in there is great, because if you don't see it, if it's automatically taken out, then you can't spend it. You think about it that way. So let's do what's easily available as we're starting the investment program. We've looked at the rule of 72, and this is where the investment world, that rule comes in very, very, very valuable to us. Time affects the money, the value of time. So start, and when you can do this, you're starting young, you have so many more years. Most people don't do it. I don't have a lot of money. Well, there's so many technology, and through the last 5 years has brought us so many great applications on our phone. So you have Acorns, you have Robinhood, you have Stash, you have other things that can utilize roundups, and you can utilize micro investing, putting in $5 a week. You can actually, on the Acorns account, start your Roth or traditional IRA. It's so easy, my friends. And again, you start doing it young, it's just going to compound more and more and more for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So don't believe because you don't have a lot of money you can't start this, because these apps have made it great. In fact, they made it so great that Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Vanguard, they are trying to compete with that. Say, hey, we'll take those little micro investments, because a little here and there after a long period of time really builds up. Well, there's the risk and reward. There's a pelican, there's a Persian cat. They're each eyeballing each other. That cat says, man, I get that. I don't eat. I can be full for a month. I think the pelican's thinking the same thing. Obviously, there's a lot of reward and a lot of risk. The higher level of risk, you always should get a greater reward. When you do that with your money, we have to understand that. We want to know what investments, can give us some risk, but some return. So we're going to look at this. There are components of risk. There's something called investment risk. This is the chance that I could lose everything and completely go broke. Yikes. Yeah, that's why we need to do a lot of research on the organizations that we're going to invest in, the mutual funds, the exchange traded funds, our 401ks. We need a lot of research here. That's how you can reduce risk. All right. There's a business failure. Well, there's an old picture right there, not that old, of COVID. What happens? Pandemics. The economy may be businesses less profitable. But remember, we're not investing for a year. We're not doing speculative high things. That's a whole different class right there. That's Wharton School of Business and Harvard right there, trying to look at very risky investments. We're looking for the long haul. Things may be bad for a while, but over a decade or two, it will even out to be a profitable return. So stocks, corporate bonds, mutual funds, invest. There's always the case that the company's managed very poorly and it can go wrong. But would the whole economy go bad? I mean, completely down to zero? Friends, if we're in a zero-based economy, then Armageddon has hit. The asteroid is just about to blow the Earth. And I make a little bit light of that. That would have to be. It would be a doomsday situation right there. And even in the times of wars, the economy will still keep going. That's just what we do. Interest rate risk. Well, again, as I said, this video starting at the start of 2023, we have seen just in the last 6 months that the Federal Reserve has risen their interest rates. That is the rates that they lend out money, which in turn banks, credit cards, bond market, everyone follows suit. So an investment like a bond with a fixed rate of return will decrease when the interest rates go up. We'll talk more about this, but hey, if I bought bonds several years ago and they were at 3%, and now all of a sudden those same different types of bonds are literally issuing a 7 to 8% rate of return, well, then my 3% is not worth that much. If I had $1,000 denomination, there's no way I could sell that for $1,000. I would probably have to go down to $600 or $700 to go ahead and sell it right now before it reaches maturity. So that is risk in the interest rate market. And of course, those who got a mortgage a few years ago had a lower interest rate. Today, mortgage rates have really increased, and that makes buying a house much more expensive, which also means that housing may come down. We'll see what happens. We'll see. But that is, interest rate has a lot of risk there in the market. Well, of course, there is market risk. That is systemic risk. So we have systemic and unsystemic risk we need to talk about. Systemic means it is hitting the entire world. It's a general decrease in overall economic environment, like a recession, a war, a pandemic, a natural disaster. These typically don't last terribly long, but it affects everything. This is just life, right? That's what a market risk is. There's also something called unsystemic risk, which means it affects it's at the micro level. It affects a company or an industry. So if I'm only invested in all natural resources like oil and gas, and for a while that was just killing it, and then all of a sudden we become much more energy independent, well, then those stocks tend to go down. One of the worst fraud cases in history is right there. It was Enron. And it was terrible fraud, but it certainly put under the guise of unsystemic risk under that category. Think of this. Think you've worked for Enron. Enron was an energy company based out of Houston, Texas. It was one of the bigger ones. You worked through your whole life. Here's a different risk here we're also going to look at. You have your 401k, but your 401k was invested all in your company stock. Let me do a little parenthetical clause right here. You should never invest your 401k in 100% of your company stock. I don't care if it's Apple. You should not do that. Your risk is 100% in that company. But that's what many people did because the rates of return, the stock was going up. It was great. Now let's say you're 67, 68, you've had a great career. You say, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I've got my 401k, great. This was back in 2001. So on November 30th, 2001, Enron was at $91 a share. You had already put in your retirement a couple months early. On December 1st, you were ready to retire. You wake up on that day. Everything on Enron had been exposed, and the stock went to 26 cents a share. That's what we call all of our eggs in one basket. That's a really bad risk. Here's what it meant. You had 20,000 shares in your 401k. November 30th, $1,820,000. Hey, you're saying, you know what? I'm going to buy a couple of cars. My house is already paid off. This is going to be great. Enjoy a great retirement. December 2nd, you check your balance. December 1st, 2nd, $5,200. What do you do? I don't know. That company never came back. I don't know what people did. It was brutal, but they probably had to keep working. And of course, they couldn't work for Enron because it went into bankruptcy, into receivership, and brutal, my friends, brutal. That is a unsystemic risk because of fraudulent behavior. But unfortunately, we've seen a lot of fraudulent behavior in the business world. So we have to think differently. We never, just remember one thing in that 401k when we get to it, when you start investing it, do not invest 100% of it in your company stock. And always look back to Enron as the example for that. There's several others, but that's a brutal one. Absolutely brutal. Global investment risk. Well, you know what? Everything else. We have seen the war in Russia and the Ukraine and in different parts of the world. Okay, that will do something to investment risk. Usually it takes a quick dive, but once things tend to settle around, investments can come back up. But that is the risk when we invest in different areas of the world. And then you're saying, wow, man, I don't know about this. What if I had $20,000 or $40,000 and I just kept it underneath my bed in a lockbox because I don't feel safe? Well, I get that. But if you have that for the last 20 years, you are safe from investment risk, but you do have non-investment risk. That was inflation. Inflation has been eating away at our money. And now we've seen it really bad in this last 2022 to 2023 year, where it's been reaching levels of 9%. Hey, that's what the government, as I've said before, it's what the government admits to. So you and I know it's more like 30% of things that we buy. So if there's no risk, there's no reward. Now, I do believe you should always have some money, cash, at your home or your apartment or wherever you are, for you, your family. At least a grand, $1,000, maybe more, maybe 2,000. Not a ton of money, but that's kind of like an emergency fund right there. Because what would happen if the internet does blow? What would happen if your bank just had a power outage or flooded and all their servers were down? This stuff's not in the cloud, okay? You don't want too much of that banking information in the cloud. It's their server power. In the year 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, hit New Orleans, Louisiana very badly. The largest bank at the time in Louisiana was a bank called Hibernia Bank, and they were headquartered in New Orleans. And their building that controlled all their servers for their debit card, their credit card, all financial transactions. I think they had several buildings, and they were all underwater. And for a period of a couple of weeks, your $100,000 in that account that you wanted to go buy food, you needed to get out for groceries, for rent, for a hotel, you couldn't use it. Yikes. So it's always not a bad idea to have a little bit of cash. But we just don't want all of it there. That's more for emergency purposes. Some of your emergency funds could easily be in cash, and that's perfectly fine, my friends. Well, since we talked about risk, is there any way to reduce it? Yeah, obviously. Big thing, conducting more research. The more you know, then you're able to react quicker. Broad range of topics, my friends. I always think you should read that. And diversify. You know, we talk a lot about diversity today. We can all look different, even in the class that we're in right now. But if we all thought the exact same way, is that any diversity? Probably not. What we want to do over your investments, we want to have multiple sectors of the global economy, because some will go down. Some natural resources, some international funds, some bonds, some different things, some different mutual funds that have many different companies. So we don't have the problem of an Enron completely wiping away our finances. Well, I think I have these on our course Canvas site. These are great things. Investopedia is great, NerdWallet, Financial Knowledge, MSN Money, love to read that. Different areas right in here where you can understand. They're not trying to sell you a product. They're trying to help you out. And I think Investopedia, really, really good one on that. So again, some different books you could read through. but just understanding different areas of the investment world will help. Depending on where you are in life and your age, I can assure you that someone in your future, at some point in your life, they're going to ask you to do this. Hey, man, you want to partner up with me, my business idea? I tell you, if you gave me $25,000, that should be fine. And believe me, an entrepreneur is generally very charming. They are extraordinarily persuasive. They get you thinking great stuff. Man, I guarantee you, we're going to have a 30% investment rate. This is going to be the next best thing. And you're going to be on the ground floor with me. How do you answer those questions? Well, here's how you'd answer it. Let me see your business model. And some of us in this class have always had, I've had it happen several times. I said, let me see your full business model or business plan. And I teach this in my Intro to Business course. But again, let me see who's your target market. What is your customer? All right. Where do you think the industry changes are? What customer experience? Probably 7 times out of 10, 70% of the time, they're going to say, well, I got it all in my head. It's going to be great, man. Don't worry about that. And I want to see your plan to make this work. That might get you out of that situation. Always trust that gut feeling. The gut feeling is all of your experiences you've had in life. That ought to help you out, my friends. So the objectives for our investments, generally they come to 3 areas: growth, income growth, and liquidity. All right, let's look at that. Investment income, predictable source, paid out monthly, depending on where we are in life. All right, savings accounts, certificates of deposit, government bonds, municipal bonds. If I'm in my retirement age, I'm in my 70s now, and I've worked hard, I am retired, I probably like a lot of money in investment income. I want it safe, and I want it to give me a stable amount of returns. So if we had that $1.8 million from our Enron 401k account, and we immediately move that into money markets, CDs, bonds, then it's very protected, and we are preserving that well. We always need some income in here, and we always need some of these accounts right in here. Again, we do not want to be part of the unbanked economy. Investment income, I need something more. Now we're in our career. So if you are in the beginning to middle of your career, I think you got to go pretty aggressive, my friends. Higher potential income investments. So maybe now we're in preferred stock, all right, corporate bonds, mutual funds, real estate, rental properties. This is going to generate more return for you. I do have a higher level of risk, but if I'm in the stage of my career where I have decades more to go, then you can make up money that you may lose early. Again, the law of averages is going to say you're going to do much better with that long-term investment strategy. I may want real growth right in here. All right. And this is higher risk, but they were going for growth and accumulation. I'm finding a company that's really growing strong, and they use those dividends for reinvesting. I don't need the money now, so I'm going to plug everything back into it. And we see some of the big ones, and I'm just using A's right in here: Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google. These organizations, how they started, and really we're looking in the past 20 to 25 years. Although Apple's the oldest one in there, they certainly reinvented themselves in the 90s of how huge they have grown. And wouldn't you have loved to have had some Apple stock in 1995? For those of you who were alive at that time, it was selling for $3 a share. No one thought Apple could even resurrect itself. Then Steve Jobs came back to the company. And, well, you'd have done very, very well had we bought in at that time. As we look at investing, we look at liquidity. Liquidity just means this: how quickly can I turn an investment into cash? I need to use it. Well, the more liquid an investment is, then there's really low risk involved, and you're probably not going to get any types of return. So your cash in the bank, all right, interest rates, I don't even know when they'll ever return. I don't think they'll see what I used to see as in a college in the 90s where they were 8%. We're lucky to get 1 or 2 or 3%. Okay, good for emergency funds. I need to have that cash, but there's not a lot of return. What I do have is non-investment risk. That is, inflation attacking that cash. I always think we need a little bit of it there. So you definitely, hey, we're talking debit account. We need to have funding to fund all of our livelihood right in there. So more liquid an investment is, the very little you're going to get from that. Obviously, we need a bank account. We do not want to be part of the unbanked economy. All right, there's those 80s and 90s, 8%. 72 divided by 8, 9. Every 9 years, your money doubled. So if you were very conservative, that the generations that kind of lived through the Great Depression and fought World War II, they're called the traditionalists and baby boomers who were right after them. They enjoyed a lot of great risk-free investments there, and their money could double pretty easily. So right now, that's where we just park some of our emergency funds. What to do. All right, we need to plan a little bit here, my friends. I like asset allocation. Okay, I like the diversification. As you look at your investments, we don't want to put everything in one area. Again, on a long-term basis, on a general finance plan, we have a little bit of everything: some stocks, some bonds, some real estate, some cash right in there. So our considerations: your age, your investment goals, your toleration of risk, amount that you should invest each month, the value of your current investments, and economic outlook. These are the things that we consider in our investment time. And again, the younger we are, I think the more aggressive you should be, because you have a long time to gain money and to even it back. The closer we are to retirement, if we're just about to get there, then all of a sudden we probably go to a much moderate level. And of course, if we have grandparents who are older, maybe in their 70s and 80s, we're looking to preserve whatever they have. So it has a lot to do with these right in here. Here is an easy way to look at an investment pyramid, and that is the level of 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have level 1. I have financial security. Okay, so these are all just about guarantees right in here that they are not going to, in the worst case scenario, you're going to have your cash, your CDs, your money markets, and U.S. government bonds. Well, it's always nice to have that, but we need income, my friends. We need return. So level 2, safety. All right, U.S. securities, income stocks, mutual funds right in here. Growth and speculation. All right, now we're trying to find younger companies that are really about to, maybe some startups right in here in level 4 that we know are gonna hit it. Hey, there's definitely some high risk, but your return could really, I mean, we're talking 18 to 30% right in here. Again, this is kind of where you would have your, so the pyramid says a little bit at the top, much more down here, basically averages out. If we could average everything we got to 12% return a year on investments, that would be very good, because 72 divided by 12 is going to be 6. Every 6 years, that money will double. And if you're putting in money, you're accumulating more, and that could set you into retirement over 40, 45 years into a very, I mean, we're talking $3, $4, $5 million right in there. Again, that is on a perfect mathematical equation. But I tell you what, I take half that. I take $2.5 million on some steady investing. So the overview that we will look at in the next videos, we look at stock and equity. The reason companies sell stock, it is equity investment. This is how they're building their capitalizations. You buy stock, gives them the money so they can use for their operations and their growth. When you become a stockholder, you own some of the company. Depending on how much stock you own, you may own a very small percentage or several percent. The corporation has no obligation to pay you back. You're not loaning this money. You are becoming an equity owner. So stocks are always equity. It's called equity financing. Now, how do I get my money out? Well, 2 ways. Generally, many stocks will pay dividends. I can get a cash dividend, or I can say reinvest it in the stock itself and buy more stock with it. All right. There's a higher level of risk right in here. And of course, I am free to trade that stock. I could sell it or buy more. All right, stock. So stock is the main driver of the United States economic system for corporations. You're buying a percentage of that. They don't have to pay you back. It could all blow up, but generally speaking, it doesn't. Bonds, all right. Bond is debt. It's got to be paid back. In a corporate bond, and another way that a corporation can finance themselves is issue bonds. Generally speaking, they're in $1,000 denominations. You give them $1,000 and they will pay you interest, and they must pay that bond back. So it may be a 10-year bond, which means we will retire the bond in 10 years. During those 10 years, you get paid interest generally 2 times a year. Could be 1, could be 4. It's generally 2 times. And that's how they use that money to finance their operations. So they pay you interest, and then at the end they pay you back. Now bonds can be traded just like stocks. There's a lot of different movement in here. In the corporate world, there's government bonds, local, state. That could be municipal bonds, federal bonds. Again, same thing. You're lending them money, they're paying you interest, and then when the bond retires, they pay you back the amount in full. So there we go. Now, bonds are the most affected by interest rate risk. Always need to know that. We have mutual funds. I like these. I think this kind of really makes things simple for us. And then in an EFT, which is an exchange traded fund, is very close to a mutual fund. These are companies that purchase a wide variety of securities. They could have stocks, bonds, real estate, etc. They're all in the company. Then you buy shares of the mutual fund. We'll talk more about that. Obviously, we'll have a whole video just on mutual funds. But this is nice. It's a lot of diversification, my friends, in your investment. So they're professionally managed. You buy a purchase of that share, but you have that diversification. They're great for long-term investing. When you get your 401k, I'm just going to keep talking about this throughout these sessions here and to our completing our financial plan. This is what you put your money in. This is how you invest it. Most people get a 401k. It automatically either goes into the company stock or goes into an interest account. You don't want those, 100% of that. You want to be, maybe Fidelity manages your 401k. Maybe it's T. Rowe Price. Maybe it's Vanguard. Maybe it's TIAA-CREF. A lot of companies out there. You want control over that, and you would put them in the mutual funds that you like. We're going to come back to that, but that's what a mutual fund is. So it takes a lot of the pressure of investing off. Again, great long-term, great for retirement funding. Exchange traded funds is very close to the same. Mutual, it combines the aspects of mutual funds and conventional stock. It's a pooled investment, it's professionally managed. Many ETFs are also artificial intelligence based on algorithms in finance. So they can act very quickly, and they tend to follow stock exchange indexes like the S&P. S&P 500 follows the 500 largest companies in the United States. NASDAQ follows, I believe, 3,000 different companies. Dow Jones Industrials, 30 of the biggest industrial companies, et cetera, et cetera. So they tend to invest in these areas. And the only difference is they act a little bit faster than a mutual fund. And of course, a lot of the application, like Acorns app on your phone, it's an ETF. And it's based on algorithms, and most of it's based on artificial intelligence. So it moves very quickly. Real estate. This is a real property here. If this is your wheelhouse and you really know a lot about this, I think you have a lot of time to invest in this. Wow, real estate has increased extraordinarily well, certainly here in Texas for the past 30 plus years. Maybe we're bubbled up right now. Maybe it redirects itself. But real estate, it's a real investment, which means it's tangible. You can go to your property and hold it, but you just really need some good knowledge. And at Tarrant County College, we have a great real estate program. And you'd want to take a few of those courses, real estate investments, and just the principles of real estate to get a much better understanding of how this market rules. There's all sorts of other things we can look at real quickly as we go through this. There's art. People say, hey, art's fantastic. Stamp collecting, coins. There's the cryptocurrency. I know it's been taking a beating, but It's not. I don't think it's going to go away. And there's the traditional, the old world of gold and silver. These are investments as well. Little tricky. I think you do it because you like these things. You love art, and you want to invest in it. So we'll take a look at that too as we proceed through this unit. As we look at those steps, my friends, for effective investment planning, establish the goals. How much money do we need, all right, to obtain those goals? What can I use right now? What are the investments that I want to evaluate? What's the risk? How do I reduce some of that? Then you say, I'm going to choose a couple of these, and then I'm going to always continuous evaluation. You do that in everything in life, and to get better at it. So again, we have some goals here. If I'm going to put a few down, well, you know what? I'm now in my mid-20s. I'm about to take that professional job, and I want to look at retirement already. I want a down payment on a house. I need to think about college funding for children. And maybe I'll start a business on the side. Again, 80% of millionaires started some sort of a side hustle in their 20s, some sort of a side income. Maybe it was starting that business. I'm going to do that. All right, I want to purchase a car. Maybe I got a dream vacation coming up. So all of a sudden I said, hey, establish what amount of money do I need to obtain those goals? Well, I want $1 million for retirement plus. Yeah, that's what we're going to need. I like $15,000 on a house payment down. I'm thinking about my child's education, and that's probably going to take about 20 grand just to get them started. Okay, because why? They're going to go to community college first. They're going to go to Tarrant County College, get everything they can done here first, and then we'll think about moving on. We just got to get those post-secondary certifications. I want to save some up for some business opportunities. I'm going to save up for a nice down payment on a car and a vacation, coming up here at some point in my life. It's all not going to happen in a year, but those are some broad spectrums I want to do. And so I look at that. I say, you know what? I need 8 to 10 to 12% rate of return. All right. So if I put in $25 a week for retirement for 40 years at 8 to 12%, that will definitely get that mill going. Give a couple million. And hey, we just had $1 million. If we're half wrong, we'll still take it. $40 a week for a house down payment. That gave me about 8 to 10 years. Again, so maybe I'm purchasing that house in my 30s or whatever. $10 a week for a child's education at 12%. Doesn't seem so bad because I got 18 years to do it. Again, if I have a shorter amount of time, then we're a different. It's different strategy and motivation where we're hoarding money. I want some business opportunities in the next 10 years, so I'll put $20 a week, all in this account, but I can get 8 to 12%. All right. For a car, again, I got those 5 years, $50 a week for the car, and $17 a week for that vacation in 5 years. So basically, if I love breaking things down to its smallest components, it's called a work breakdown structure in the world of business. If I did $162 a week or $23 a day in an account like that, that's where I could get that. And again, I'll probably separate my retirement account from that differently. But there it is, breaking it down. That may be more manageable. And if you're thinking, hey, I don't need this or this or this, it'll just tell you what we need a week. That's what gives us at least the starting point of our investment strategy, my friends. Again, the investments I may want to evaluate, the mutual funds, the ETFs, CD, stocks, bonds, real estate, and alternatives. I just want to look at those and evaluate that because that's what we're going to do in the next videos here. Gives us some ideas. Evaluate. The risk for the return. Again, the longer the investment goal, I think you can tolerate more risk because you have time to correct any market problems. All right. So housing goal, college goal, some of those are moderate, lower risk. I believe the retirement's going to get you your strongest one right in there. Sooner you need your money, the lower investment the risk should be. And again, some of that may just be hardcore saving. Then, we reduce it. We choose our numbers, our options that we want. All right, maybe I'm going to stick just with the ETFs and high quality mutual funds right now for my basic investments. Maybe a CD here or there if I'm going to try to hoard up some money for my car or house down payment. Then, of course, we evaluate that. How's it going? Continuous improvement, my dear. We plan, do, check, act. That's continuous improvement. You do that throughout your career, through the projects that you're going to be doing, and you see how you can correct very quickly. Again, if we don't check on it, and a few years go by, how do we know we're doing it right? But if we see a problem, we can correct it pretty quickly. So you want to be able to correct that. So the next videos, my friends, we're going to look at stocks. We're going to look at bonds. We're going to look at mutual funds and ETFs. We'll look at real estate and alternatives. And I think that might give us a nice overview in a simple way of how to start investing our money. I hope you enjoy these videos.